This video is brought to you by AKS IAS.
Good morning, students. How are you all doing? So this is me, Dr. Farhan. I'll be dealing with sociology optional. So like with every same year, I have got pretty different kind of questions which have been coming down, and there are many students that I deal with who are basically in a state of dilemma. Like, sir, should I take sociology as an optional? I am coming from an engineering background. I am coming from a medical background. I am coming from so and so XYZ. So I'm pretty sure that either you have decided that you want to go with sociology, or either you are in a state of a dilemma. This is what I consider. So over here in this particular session, what we are trying to understand is that why should you be choosing up sociology as an optional? So one set of questions and answers what I get is they are basically interested in that subject, and they are having an interest that we want to understand the Indian society. So I don't want to talk about how sociology is going to benefit you as a sociological point of view. But right now what I would want you to understand is that we are trying to come up with certain different points that how will sociology help you only in the terms of UPSC. We're not talking about how will it help you within the case of an interview, how will it really benefit you after you become a civil servant officer, but honestly, your sociology and UPSC perspective, do it go in hand in hand. So over here, we are trying to come up with different topics or different mindsets. How exactly? So what did we do is that we have created a certain kind of a survey that among different sects of topper, like for example 300 to 400 toppers who have taken up sociology in the year 2017, 18, 19. So almost we have taken up a survey of nearly 1000 toppers, and we questioned them, what was exactly in your mind that why did you take up sociology? Almost 90% of them were not coming up from an arts background, they were coming up from science background. So what was the reason that you chose up the subject? So we came up with different points, and some of them were telling up we took up sociology just because it was having a shorter syllabus, like it is going to get covered up only in a span of 3.5 months. That's one. The topic that are supposed to be read are almost like 10 units in the paper 1, 8 to 9 units in the case of paper 2. So we have got less than 20 units which are being covered up. So having a shorter syllabus is giving them time to make up more number of revisions, and first of all to make the preliminary reading at a more faster pace. So one reason why most of the toppers have selected, they were really being honest about it, so is that first they have got something like a shorter syllabus. So based on that, they were in sync with that. Next, one of the reasons why are they choosing up sociology is because there is a certain kind of an overlap loop. What do you mean by the word overlap loop? Is what you cover up within the case of general studies is being covered up within the case of paper 1 and paper 2. So even though if you have not started the sociology as a syllabus, but still within the case of paper 1 and within the case of paper 2, there are many topics which are overlapping. So for example, you have done GS preparation 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you look up over here, almost 20% of the topics you have already covered up in sociology. And nearly 40 to 50% of sociology topics are coming up from GS2. GS 2, 3, 4 in the case of paper 2. Now paper 1 deals up with the Western sociology, paper 2 deals up with the Indian sociological perspective. So you have got a certain kind of an overlap. Let me give you an example. What do I mean by this overlap? For example, in GS1, if you look at the GS1, you have Indian society that you cover up. So when you are studying GS for Indian society, obviously it is a part of sociology. 30% of this particular portion becomes a part of the Indian society. What do we get to see? In the case of GS2, what do we get? You get to different kind of governance. How is it being taken care? Different kind of a policies. What are the reason? Topics such as poverty, hunger, issues, different kind of a bills. What impact does it have within the case of Indian society? So you're already covering up those areas. Within the case of GS3, we have got economy, how economy is creating up a certain kind of an impact. What are the benefits or what are the social impact which is being created by different kind of environmental policies? That is also being a part of it. Now over here within the case of GS3, you have got a certain overlap. Now over here in GS4, what do we study over here? We study ethics, aptitude, what are the different kind of a moral values, etc. So we get to see moral values, etc. What values are the one which are being important within the case of a family? What are the important values which are important as an IAS officer? You study of those kind of a values over here. What is the aptitude which is supposed to be there within the case of a family? How should you be in a society? So we see that GS4 is also overlapping. So the overlap loop is trying to make you understand is that if you are very well versed with GS 1, 2, 3, 4, you don't have an option in that, you have to study. If you are very well versed in these areas, so basically you have covered almost 20% of your paper 1 and 40 to 50% of your paper 2. So this overlap loop gives you an advantage when you compare it with the other optionals. Moving to the next is, we have taken up a certain kind of a statistics from all the 1000 toppers who have scored very well, that's why they are the topper. What exactly is the number of average marks that they have gained? Now, we did not really cover them to be like the top 1000 rankers. Within that, 300, 400 are the one who are the top ranker, the one who have scored IAS, IPS. Rest 600 to 700 rankers who have been there, they have got the last services such as Agmood services, Indian Postal Services, Railways, etc. or Indian Audit Services. Those people are also the toppers, but they have, how much have they scored up? So over here, from the 1000 toppers, we have understood is that on an average, what a topper scores up is somewhere 290 plus marks. So once this is something like an average what we have achieved it. So if we remove down the people who have got somewhat like a lesser marks, but they are surely 275 marks plus is what a topper is scoring, who has even got somewhere like an 800 rank. Somewhere who is like a 700, 800 rank, even he or she is getting up somewhere 275 plus. And for those who have cracked it into Indian Administrative Services, IPS, IRS, IFS, they are the one who have scored 320 plus. So over here, what we see is that the difference is somewhat about 40 marks in the top 1-digit rank and the top last 3-digit ranks. So we get to see that 320 or somewhat between 290 plus marks is what you're able to score. Let me be practical. I don't want to say that you can score 320 plus, 300 plus. No. This is a kind of an average what we are getting up from the 1000 toppers who have scored it down. So almost from this 1000 toppers, it is their first and the second attempts, most of the people who have scored it down, and they are coming up from a non-arts background. They are coming up from science, mostly engineers or somebody who's coming from a commerce background, something of that sort. So we understand is that many students have opted, and they have been very honest about it, that it is the score for which they have opted for this one particular sociology. First we'll find out whether it's scoring or not. After that we'll try to build our own interest and then we'll start doing up. So score statistics is one of the important reason what we're having up. Next is that material assessment. See, if you like one particular subject, for example, Sanskrit is one of the subjects. I don't have an intention to demean any one particular optional, but let's just talk about Sanskrit. You want to study Sanskrit, you like Sanskrit, and you have got a lot of interest. But what will you do if you don't have an access to that one particular material? If you don't get a coaching for that Sanskrit optional, if you don't have a reading material, do you think you'll be able to score marks in that? Certainly no. We get to see that one of the important factors which makes you choose one particular option is that you should have an access to the material. On the particular AKS platform, we have given some free PDFs for you to have an access. We have got syllabus over there. We have got different answer writing material. We have got different portions that has been covered up. And within the case of classes, we will be giving you complete notes from paper 1 to paper 2. So over here we get to see, and even in the online market, for example, you go in the Telegram website, you go into free UPSC material websites, even in the Google searches, you have a lot of material assessment. So over here, you have got plenty of resources to read. Now you have to judiciously decide what to read and what not to read. So one advantage is that assessment to the material is also present, which is a very important factor. Next, what we understand is the concept of high subjectivity. Now, when I'm speaking high subjectivity, I also mean there is low objectivity as well. Now do not get confused with this word subjectivity and objectivity. What I simply mean is that within the case of a sociology, there are few concepts for you to memorize. Like example, if I'm talking about a geography, whenever I'm giving you a theory of a geography, you have to present it the way it is. there cannot be no interpretation of yours. How the mountains are being formed, you cannot come up with your own interpretation. But if I ask you how the families are to be seen in the Indian society, you can say there are joint families and you can interpret it in your own way. You can say nuclear families and you can interpret it in your own way. You can speak about live-in relationship and you can speak it in your own way. So what do we understand by the word subjectivity is that it gives you an opportunity for you to interpret in your own way and write it in your exam. So over here we get to see this particular subject is dealing up with the society. So it has got lot of high subjectivity, means you have got your own opinion freedom. That's the next point what we're talking about. So over here we have got low number of concepts to mug up, low number of particular theory that we need to memorize. You need to understand a particular theory, you cannot write it in your own way as well. So in this way, as society is a complex phenomena, we cannot have generalized theories. Different people come up with different perspective. Your perspective is a respectable perspective. Don't go extreme, try to write it in a balanced manner. Somehow the other way you will land up to be as a mediocre writer. So over here we understand that high subjectivity gives you an option. What option are you going to get is that the concept of opinion freedom. Means whenever you're writing a one particular answer, for example, you write up the introduction, you write the things what the other people have said, the famous people, you have to quote it down, and in the end you have got your own freedom to write it down. So in this way, this particular part of your opinion freedom is constituting 30% in every particular answer. So you can write what you feel. So over here, go and read the previous year question papers. It will not be like a blank thing for you. You will have a certain kind of interpretation of that one particular question. You can write it down. With that writing, you can almost fill up 30% of your answer writing, which is certainly going to benefit you. So you will be writing up in a smart way based upon the knowledge that you have from GS 1, 2, 3, 4, and based upon the knowledge what you have from reading the basic optional subject books, you can understand and write your own opinion freedom. Now in this way, we get to see eventually what is the most important thing is that what do the toppers have to say regarding this optional. Many people have said that we want to understand society, that is why we took up sociology. Many of them were in love with that. Many of them wanted to be good leaders, so that how can you become a good leader if you understand the society or if you have a good perspective of sociology. So over here different toppers are coming up with different views. So over here we understand that toppers are trying to incline is that understanding the society is the most fundamental thing that you need to have as a civil servant. If you cannot understand your society, you cannot become a leader. You cannot become a leader, basically you cannot become an administrator. So dealing with the society has to be done either in today in the form of an optional, if not tomorrow as a civil servant. So in this way, you will have to deal up with the Indian society in one way or the other. So why not in the earliest phase possible? So toppers are coming up with different perspective. So bringing up gist, what do we get to see? Why sociology is chosen as an optional? We get to see it has got a shorter amount of syllabus, which is going to be covered easily. There's something like an overlapping part that comes up with GS 1, 2, 3. Within the case of an interview, you can present yourself in a more better way. So over this overlap will help you to handle the interview questions as well. It will help you for your own personality development. Score statistics, we get to see 290 plus mark is easily being scored up over here. On an average, what we get to see, we have got high amount of material which is being present. So material assessment is the most important that we understand, is that you should have abundant material to read it down. Then you should do the filter, what you want to read, what you don't want to read, based upon the guidance that you will be getting up. High subjectivity basically means we have got lesser number of theories, you have got your own opinion freedom which will be present up, and eventually toppers are coming up with different explanations. So forget about these topics. The most important thing that I want you to understand over here is that even though if these things are not really important for you, how do you come out of that dilemma whether you want to choose sociology, yes or no? I would humbly request you, take down the 5 years of question paper from the previous time. You can take paper 1 and paper 2. Paper 1 is more fundamental in nature. It has got a particular jargon that you have to deal up with. Because you don't know the subject, you'll be getting a little bit offshoot. Like, is it what exactly the question paper is trying to ask me? So you can take paper 1, paper 2. Paper 2 is something what you're more closer with, because it is dealing with the Indian society, it is dealing with Indian sociology. You go and read that one particular paper from the 5 different years. So you take 5-year papers and just read it down. You don't have to answer it to them. Whenever you're reading one particular question paper, just see that, are you able to understand what the question is being asked? Are you able to connect with those things? You might be knowing maybe like 10%, or you might be knowing, you might not be knowing anything over there. So over there, just read it down and see that whether you're able to connect with the question paper. If you're able to understand what exactly is he asking, will I be able to write at this particular position? Will I be able to write if I read this particular areas of concern? In this way, within a span of next 4-5 days, just read these 5-year question papers 2 to 3 times. You will be able to decide whether you can take up this optional or you cannot take up this optional. Now let me give you a very a kind of a sharp reminder, is that who should not be taking up this optional? For those people who are not imaginative, because you'll not be having pictures in this particular optional. You have to imagine. Whenever I'm saying about a family, you'll have to imagine your own family. If I'm speaking something about the caste system, you have to imagine about the caste system, what is being done. So over here, some kind of imagination is being required. So you will not have pictorial representation. So over here, we'll be trying to understand, we'll be trying to analyze based upon our imagination. We'll be trying to shift from one particular society to another. Sometimes I'll be talking about African people, tribal groups. Sometimes I'll be talking about posh people who are living in the case of a cosmopolitan society. Sometimes I'm criticizing the American society. Sometimes I'm criticizing the Indian society as well. So over here, we need to jump and we need to imagine from the different perspective. So if you have got some good imagination skills, you are ready to interpret, you don't want to mug up, you want to understand the Indian society, then this should be your call. So read up the 5-year question papers, read up the whole syllabus, look at the advantageous position that you'll be having up, and then decide. Do not get influenced by anybody. You have to answer it yourself. If you take up the wrong optional, you will be the one who will be held responsible. So over here, take up a wise decision, just relax and see that whether sociology is your line of an optional, yes or no. So that's up with the why do we choose sociology.
This video is brought to you by AKS IAS.